Hello, ConE Learning Community. Now that we wrapped up everything with the career fair, or at least most of the stuff with the career fair, today we are going to start working on advising. So a couple things that you're going to need for advising. One would be your brown folders. If you were in 121 last semester, you should have a brown folder from last semester. If you are new to ConE this semester, then your peer mentor should have a brown folder for you. In those brown folders, you'll have all of the course matrices. So if you want to see, what courses are required for building emphasis, heavy highway, mechanical, or electrical, you'll have the course plans for each of those. And on the back of those, you have the prerequisite chart. So that will be really helpful as you're doing course planning and looking at, which courses can you take and when, and which ones are required to take before the next one. So the other things that you're going to need today would be your degree audit. You can access your degree audit if you have your laptop with you, which hopefully you do. You can go into Access Plus. I would show you all of this, but it looks different on my end. So it's probably going to be easier if you just do it yourself and maybe have the peer mentor help you if you need to. So log into Access Plus. You'll then go to the student tab, and on the side, you should see degree audit as an option. You'll need to click to connect to degree audit. And then you'll have to click Run Declared Program. If you are wanting to see what your degree audit would look like with a different program, like maybe one of the different emphasis areas, you can run a different program and select that. But you'll need to run that program. Then your degree audit will just kind of show up in a little line. You'll have to click to View Audit. And then once you're in there, you're going to click to open all sections so that you can actually see the details of that degree audit. So peer mentors, if you need to pause this and help make sure everybody gets to their degree audit, that's totally fine. So the other thing that you're going to need is this worksheet. It's on kind of a tan colored paper. I made this just to kind of help follow along with advising stuff, because I know that we're going to talk about a lot of detailed stuff. It can get a little bit tedious. So using this, which is just for your own information and for your own records, should kind of help follow along a little bit. So let's take a look. I actually made a sample degree audit here, and we'll use that to just kind of walk through what stuff we need to be seeing on a degree audit. So I'm going to share my screen here in just a second. And you should be able to see, I'm actually going to move this over yeah, we should be able to see the degree audit here on this screen. So I just made this sample audit, so I don't have any actual student information in here. So on your degree audit, you'd actually have your name and everything up here. You should have a graduation date, or at least kind of like a projected graduation date put in here, your student ID and all of that. So one of the important things that you want to look at in your degree audit is actually this section here. So this is really helpful because it'll just be updated automatically as you go through the program. A few things that you'll be able to see here are how many drops do you have left? So we can see drops remaining right here. This sample person has 5 drops. So if you came to Iowa State direct from high school and didn't, even if you took some classes while in high school, that's fine. But if you came direct from high school, you'll have 5 drops for your time at Iowa State. Drops don't count for your first semester, but after that, anytime you drop a class, it counts as one of those drops. That's true only if you're dropping a class after the first week of classes. So the first week of classes, you get kind of a free-for-all, make schedule changes. But after that first week, you've got 5 times that you can ever drop a class. Now, if you came to Iowa State as a transfer student, so you went to another college, maybe a community college for a while, and then came in, you would only receive 4 drops. The purpose of that is, the idea that you've already taken some of your classes, so you shouldn't need as many drops because you're not spending quite as much time at Iowa State. So you should be able to see on your degree audit how many drops you have remaining. The other thing that you can see in this area is designated repeat credits used. And this sample person hasn't used any, but you would be able to see whether or not you've used any. So in your time at Iowa State, you have 15 available designated repeat credits. And what that means is if you take a class and you fail the class, and so you retake it in the following semester, that retake will supersede the previous grade in terms of calculating your GPA. So that's really helpful. It's a great way to improve your GPA. You know, if you failed a class and you need to retake it, it's a great way to like instantly kind of bring up that GPA. So if you, let's see, there's a lot of times where designated repeats can get kind of tricky. If, for example, you've used 12, so you'd have 3 left because you get 15 total. You've used 12, but then you fail a math class, and math classes are 4 credits each, typically. You would not be able to use any of the 3 remaining designated repeats on that because you have to have, it has to cover the full class. So like if you only have 3 remaining, but you're retaking a 4 credit class, you can't just replace 3 of those. It's kind of all or nothing. So it does get kind of tricky, like once you start using these, if you do need to use them, we just need to be aware of how many you've used and how many you have left. If you've used them all, that's fine. It just means that both of those grades would then show up in your GPA. So yeah, so that's where we keep track of designated repeat. The other thing to note with that is, let's say that you took a class at Iowa State and I'm just gonna pretend someone failed calc. So you failed calc and you decide that you want to retake it over the summer at a community college and transfer it in. That's totally fine. You can do that. The failed grade is always going to be the one that shows up in your GPA because your GPA is Iowa State specific. So you can't use a, you can retake a class elsewhere and have it come in, but it won't count as a designated repeat. Yeah, that's, if you have questions about that, if you're in a tricky situation, just ask me, let me know. I can take a look at your case and figure out where we're at. So the other thing that we can keep track of in here is your GPA. So this keeps track of your cumulative GPA, and the cumulative GPA is everything that you've taken at Iowa State. So if you take some classes for fun, if there's something that you just want to learn about but doesn't really apply to the major, those grades will show up in that cumulative GPA. Transfer grades do not show up. So even though you have to have a C or higher to transfer a course into Iowa State, they don't actually count towards your Iowa State GPA. So that's going to be important as we go farther along down the degree audit. But that cumulative GPA is just a good thing to kind of keep track of. Sometimes for scholarships and things like that, you might have to maintain a certain GPA, so you can always see where you're at by looking at your degree audit here. So I guess if I'm kind of moving through this sheet, so feel free to stop, rewind, pause, whatever, if you've missed anything and need to catch back up. So looking at number 1, letter C, what happens if you have a semester GPA below a 2.0 or below a 1.0? There's a couple things that we look at with GPAs. So we definitely look at the semester GPA. If you have a semester below a 2.0, then you go on to academic warning. If you're on academic warning, what that means is that you have to have a meeting with me. We talk about what's going on. We look at resources that might be helpful. And then in that following semester, you need to have a GPA that's a 2.0 or higher, and then you'll just go back into good standing. If you have a semester GPA, so you're on warning and that next semester your GPA is below a 2.0 again, then you go on to academic probation. Similar thing, we take a look at what was happening, we talk about it, and you have an additional semester to either get that GPA above a 2, or go into academic dismissal where you need to take time away from Iowa State. So that's kind of where we're at if your semester GPA is below 2. If your semester GPA is below a 1.0, you go automatically to academic probation. So they're giving you that one other additional semester to get it up above a 2 or face academic dismissal. There can also be some consequences for financial aid, so it is important to keep that cumulative GPA up above a 2 and also keep those individual semester GPAs up above a 2. If you have more than 75 credits that you've earned total, then we're looking more at that cumulative GPA as well, making sure that that's above a 2, because ultimately we use this degree audit to determine whether or not you get to graduate, and you have to have a 2.0 GPA or higher in order to graduate. Okay, so let's move down through this a little bit. I don't usually pay very much attention to this area because with transfer credits and different numbers of credits and stuff, it can get a little bit messed up. I don't really care, frankly, what this says. I care whether or not you've earned credit for all of the specific courses that we need. So moving farther along in your degree audit, you'll see a few different areas. You'll see international perspectives and U.S. diversity, because those are university requirements. You're going to actually see those later on in the social science section. So some of these things get listed twice, just based on different requirements. So then we'll see some English types of things. Note that everything here has to be a C or higher for the English department. And then you should see a section, well, I guess before we get to this, when you're looking at your degree audit, you'll see a green check mark if the area has been completed. You'll see a green square with like 3 little dots in it if it's a class that you're currently enrolled in. And then you'll see a red X if it has not yet been completed. So you can tell if a whole section has been completed or not. When it comes time for graduation, I like to see just all green on everything. Sometimes we have some work to do to make it that way, but that's really how you can just easily keep track of what you still have to do. So looking at your foreign language requirement area, I want you all to just kind of take a look at that and make sure it's complete. If it's not complete, then we need to do something about that. So the foreign language is not going to show up on the ConE course plan, because typically that's completed when students come into Iowa State. But if, for example, okay, so to complete the foreign language, you need to have either 2 years of the same foreign language from high school, or 2 semesters from college, or a combination of both. So sometimes what will happen, especially for transfer students, if you came to Iowa State directly from another college or university, we don't always get the high school transcripts. And so if you completed your foreign language in high school, we need to have the high school transcripts to be able to show that it's completed. If you only took 1 year, let's say that you took 1 year of Spanish in high school and you haven't taken anything in college, you will then need to take 1 semester of Spanish in college, and then I'll combine those 2 on here to make this complete. So if you don't have this completed yet, when you're meeting with your peer mentor, please let them know, and then we'll take a look at what we need to do to get that complete. Okay, so social science area, like I said, the IP and US diversity show up here as well, because not only are they university requirements, they're courses that contribute to the ConE social science area as well. All right, so let's talk about the basic program. This is probably the most important section for right now for pretty much everybody in class. So the basic program is something that every engineering major has the basic program. So whether you're ME, CE, ConE, we have the same courses in this program. So that's really nice, because it allows people, like if you started as engineering undeclared, you were probably already making progress on this before you became a ConE. So we've got chemistry, we have English 150, we have engineering orientation, we have CE 160, or if you started somewhere else, you might have like engineering 160 or ME 160. It's just that engineering problem solving course is pretty similar across the college. We have our library course, and then we have Calc, Calc 2, and physics. So the basic program needs to be completed before you move on to 200 level or higher classes. The college allows you to have 2 semesters of overlap if you don't have that done. But after that, if you, let's say that you hadn't completed physics, but you're trying to move on to a bunch of upper level engineering courses, the college would actually put a hold on your account and not allow you to register for any engineering courses until you have this complete. So one thing that can get a little bit tricky here, you do have to have a 2.0 or higher GPA in this section specifically, and we keep track of it as a section right here. The thing about that is transfer courses do not count in that GPA. So like this student, for example, they have T credit for English 150 because they had a high enough ACT score. So they don't have a 150 grade going into this. So what goes into that 2.0 or higher GPA would just be chem, problem solving, calc, calc 2, and physics. Sometimes I'll have students who transfer in a lot of stuff here. And so let's say that you transferred in your chemistry and your calc and your English, and maybe even calc 2. Well, then this GPA is based only on physics and problem solving. So that would just be a really important thing to kind of take a look at, is what's your GPA in this section. And then if you have any issues with that, like if you have the section complete, but it's not a 2.0 yet, talk to me about that. We can figure out, you know, I'll use the GPA calculator. We can figure out what we need to do, maybe even retaking something to get that section where it needs to be. So looking at number 2 on this sheet, we've got all the courses for the basic program here, and then what happens if you don't complete it? You won't be able to register for other engineering courses until it's completed. Okay, so moving on down, well, okay, before I leave this one real quick, what I want to note here is even though it has a 2.0 or higher GPA as the requirement, that doesn't mean that every class has to be a C or higher. The math department does require that you have a C- or higher in calc and calc 2 to be able to move on. But we don't have a grade requirement for chemistry or physics or CE 160. So let's say, for example, you got a D- in chemistry. That might be fine. So the question is, you know, let's say if I have a D- in chemistry and it's pulling my GPA down, then I need to look and see, are my grades high enough in the other classes to keep that total, that group total, up to a 2.0 or higher. So that's where it's helpful that it keeps track of it here for you. But, you know, I get that question a lot when we have these like group GPAs is, you know, does every class have to be a C? Do I have to retake this? And the answer is just kind of maybe, maybe not. It depends on if your other classes are high enough to keep that group above a 2.0. Okay, so moving down through the degree audit, we have our math and physical science section, which just shows stat, differential equations, and physics 2. Then we've got the ConE core. So this is a group of classes that the ConE curriculum committee has decided is really important for you to have a specific GPA. So just like with the basic program, this group has to have a 2.0 or higher. So if you don't do well in mechanics and materials, that's fine, as long as the other classes are high enough to keep that group total up above a 2.0. Then we have additional required courses. That's where we've got learning community, graphics, a bunch of other courses. So looking at kind of number 3 on the sheet where you're saying, are the things correct on my degree audit? And if not, what needs to be fixed? If you changed your major into ConE, so the spring semester is your first semester as a ConE student, you'll probably have an issue here. If you took engineering, undeclared learning community, civil learning community, any other learning community, let your peer mentor know, because I will then need to go in and fix it here. I can take another learning community and put it there. I just need to know whether or not that's correct right now on your degree audit, and I can fix it if it's not. Also, Sometimes we see, like, if you did project lead the way IED, sometimes we need to manually put that into place in the CE 170. So just let your peer mentor know if there are issues here that need to be fixed on your degree audit. So this just shows other classes that are required. And then we get into the option area. So this degree audit is run for a building emphasis. If you haven't picked an emphasis yet, you'll probably just default to building. If you've already picked another emphasis, like heavy highway, mechanical, or electrical, then you would have those courses showing up here. So this is where it really gets different for each of the emphasis areas. I'm not really going to dive into the emphasis areas today because we're going to do that a little bit later in the semester, but you've got the course plan for each of those areas. So when you're working on your course plan today, you know, just use whichever one you think you might be leaning towards. We can always make changes to it later. So, you know, just use whatever feels the best for you right now, and we'll go from there. So looking a little bit farther down on, those are all the required classes. Farther down on the degree audit, we do have this co-op internship area. So if you do have a co-op, which would be, you know, that semester and the summer, or just an internship, which is usually just summer only, those, as long as you get them registered through Iowa State, they will show up here. They're not required, but they are nice to have on a transcript, especially to kind of go along with your resume. And then, you know, as we're looking to see, is your degree audit correct? Is it complete? Take a look down in your courses not applied. This is where you'll see, you know, if you have transfer credits or things like that, that should be somewhere else in the degree audit, they might be listed right there. And that would be a good place to let your peer mentor know, like, hey, this is in my course, it's not applied. I think it should be up here, and we can take a look at that. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers the whole sheet. I know that you're watching this in class, but this video will be posted into Canvas. So if you ever need to go back and get a little bit more information about how to read that degree audit, you can always watch this again. And okay, I'm gonna stop sharing this real quick. Okay, so in class today, you're actually going to start to work on your course plan, where you work on mapping out what you plan to take for every semester. So I want that to include summers. Even if you did something like this already in ConE 121, you need to at least go back and revise it, because this is something that we update every single semester. It really depends on, you know, how did last semester go? Do we need to make changes? Are there, you know, any other things that we need to look at? And we're also always double checking for prerequisites, making sure that you have things in the right places. And then also checking for things like, for example, the ConE program is teaching trucks and tractors in the fall only now. So we need to make sure that on your course plan, you have ConE 322 scheduled for a fall semester, if that's, if you're building or heavy. So you're going to work on that with your peer mentor. Also let your peer mentor know, and you don't have to let them know everything today, because you'll have a one-on-one with your peer mentor next week to really finalize that course plan. But it is important for you to let your peer mentor know if there are any issues on your degree audit that you need me to fix, then I can get those fixed. And yeah, this is completing your course plan is how you're going to be able to get your registration access number to be able to register for summer and fall courses. We really like to see that you have this planned out going forward. It makes it a lot easier. We can catch any issues early on. We can fix the degree audit a little bit earlier. So please make sure that you're putting some time and effort into that, and let your peer mentor or me know if you have any questions or anything that we need to fix. And I'll see you all later.